Two confusing genres collide to make a super confusing and yet kind of cool movie. Hello everyone and welcome to Movie Reviews by Josh. My name is Josh Terry and today I'm going to be telling you about a brand new piece of Japanese animation called Your Name. And this is actually kind of an interesting combination of genres that you may be familiar with, maybe not familiar with. It's a little bit complicated, a little bit confusing, but I'm going to do my best to explain it to you. Now, you may remember that there was a phase in kind of the late 80s, early 90s, it's actually kind of rolled on since then, about body switch movies, where characters like a father and a son switch bodies, and suddenly they're trying to figure out, there's this humorous predicament, and because the 12-year-old is acting, or is in a 40-year-old body, and the 40-year-old is in a 12-year-old body, and all that kind of thing. Anyway, I seem to remember one called Like Father, Like Son with Dudley Moore and Kirk Cameron, and there's been several others. Anyway, Your Name is, at the beginning, a body switch movie. Except in this case, they are two Japanese teenagers, and one is a boy and one is a girl, which for a PG movie leads to kind of some interesting stuff. So as a parent, you might want to be a little bit hesitant to take your young children to this one for that reason. It's not overly explicit or overly graphic, but if you can imagine the idea of a 16-year-old boy suddenly waking up in the body of a 16-year-old girl, it's kind of an interesting predicament. So the subject matter is a little bit more adult than you might expect, although it's still pretty much falling in a PG, maybe a light PG-13 area. Anyhow, these two characters start switching bodies. Like it's basically every time they fall asleep, they think that they're dreaming, but they're really living out the other person's life. And they become aware of each other. And that's kind of the crazy thing, is that they realize what's going on. And so they start using their smartphones to keep in contact with each other. So it's like when the boy is inhabiting the girl's body, he will start making notes on her cell phone of the things that he's done and what's going on in her life, so that when she wakes up back in her body, because this isn't like a permanent, like a one switch, this is like a back and forth. They keep toggling throughout this, the first half of this movie. Anyway, so they're kind of aware of each other. It's a boy and a girl in Japan. But then suddenly the switches stop and they're kind of back to where they were. And at this point, they kind of decide that, well, maybe they should actually find each other, because they develop kind of this strange friendship in the course of doing this, which is, this is kind of an interesting movie. It's a little bit weird, I'll be honest. At this point, and I don't want to say too much because this is kind of where the movie gets interesting, but I do kind of need to set up a little bit. They realize that even though they had assumed that they were going back and forth on the same timeline, that they were actually separated by several years. They were actually 3 years apart. And so the girl's side of the equation was happening 3 years previous to what's happening on the boy's side of the equation. And this leads to a lot of dramatic complications, let's put it this way. And so not only is this a body switch movie, but this is also kind of a time travel movie. And the more it goes on, it becomes really pretty interesting. It's also kind of confusing, because not only is the body switch stuff, I mean, it's presented in a way that you kind of have to keep up with. And so even aside from the slightly adult content that might be a warning for parents, honestly, I don't think a lot of kids are going to be able to follow what's going on in this movie, because it was even kind of challenging for me to keep up at points. And then you factor on, the time travel thing as well. And so overall, I would say, this is kind of a fun, interesting movie. I give it 3 stars out of 4. Your Name, again, is the title. Not a great name, but it is technically associated with, the boy and the girl trying to remember each other and know each other's names and all this kind of thing. So Your Name is rated PG, and I have mentioned it is a little bit more on the adult side of PG, just because the boy winding up in the girl's body and vice versa, as they realize that they have unique anatomies, that leads to kind of some strange stuff, which is still, like I said, it's still kind of like in the PG range. But besides that, little kids aren't going to know what the heck's going on with this movie anyway. So older kids and probably adults, I think, would probably be the best equipped to appreciate this movie, because it is very visually cool. It's a good-looking, interesting movie. They would be the best audience for it. So thanks again for watching. This has been Movie Reviews by Josh. Make sure to subscribe on your way out. And if you know of any other interesting time travel / body switch movies or anything that you would recommend, please leave them in the comments. Leave your notifications on so you can see as soon as we post our new videos. Thanks again to our friends at Rockagator for their loyal sponsorship, and we'll see you next time.